The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, thinking they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
John Elway was a back-to-back Super Bowl champion. Peyton Manning was a Super Bowl champ. Jerome Bettis, a Super Bowl champ, winning it in his hometown of Detroit. The list is short of great players who walked away on top or walked away after winning the ultimate game. In most cases, we see a sad ending, and a pick six may have been the last pass that Aaron Rodgers will ever throw in the NFL, and it is typical of the way even the great ones go out. And the Pittsburgh Steelers went out meekly last night at home, losing 30-6 to the Houston Texans, and that may end the career of Aaron Rodgers, who did make it to won Super Bowl, won one Super Bowl, but the promise of a Hall of Fame career, and he is a Hall of Famer, didn't really match up to what would be expected of someone like that. I mean, usually when we look at these quarterbacks, and Dan Marino would also be in this category, and he didn't win, but usually it's multiple Super Bowl appearances, multiple Super Bowl victories. Not that in any way will keep Rodgers out of the Hall of Fame. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer, but the point is, we just don't see those spectacular endings the way the storybook tells us they will happen. Dick Vermeil tried it. Dick Vermeil came close with the Eagles, got them to a Super Bowl. They lost to the Raiders, burned out, did television for about 12 or 13 years, came back to the NFL, had miserable teams the first few years with the Rams, and then won a Super Bowl and went, oh, I reached the top. I should leave. He left, stayed out a year or so, and said, oh, wait a minute, I think I made a mistake. Came back with Kansas City, was successful there, but never reached a Super Bowl again, never came close, really, to doing that, and that's the reality of this. And so Aaron Rodgers ending the way he did last night reminded me of Sonny Jurgensen and how it ended for him. And Sonny never played in the Super Bowl, mainly because of injury. He got hurt during that 72 season and had to watch the game from the press box because George Allen wouldn't even let him stand on the sidelines and try and help Billy Kilmer out with the game. That's kind of the way it usually ends in sports. And the old Willie Mays stumbling in the outfield, not quite with Aaron Rodgers last night, but it was not pretty. This was the usual post-game chatter with Scott Van Pelt and Troy Aikman and Joe Buck on what they had seen in this 30-6 blowout by Houston in Pittsburgh.
This feels like the type of thing that could propel them on to a Super Bowl. What most impressed you about that side?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. This is a defense that is so good at every level. We talked about it multiple times during the night. It was hard not to. I mean, they were just overwhelming. Aaron Rodgers, it looked like he had no room to do anything. And it was just one of those nights for this Texans defense, and they can just come at you from the edges. They can come at you up the gut. They're really good. And I tell you, with our matchup next week, we've got two defenses that will come flying into that game. Last night, the Patriots sacked Justin Herbert 6 times. And if there's a reason why they got past L.A., it's because of the defense. So to me, these are 2 wild card wins that are complements of the defensive units on each team, and we'll see how that shakes out next weekend at Foxborough.
Troy, the unforced errors for C.J. Stroud, obviously a concern, but how easy or difficult might they be to clean up between now and next Sunday?
Well, those mistakes will be easy to clean up. I think the challenging part is what exactly is going to be the status of Nico Collins.
Sure.
It's a big loss if he's unable to play. This game coming in, we talked about it. We expected it to be a low-scoring game. It was for a majority of the time. The defense then kind of breaks it wide open. But I think C.J. Stroud will come back next week. He'll be just fine. The good news for them is they've really been inconsistent offensively, and they've not run the ball particularly well. But tonight they really did. And so that will be another key in this game next week against New England. As Joe said, they've played pretty good defense themselves. So I would expect it to be another low-scoring game going in. But it will bode awfully well for C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans if they can get that running game going with Woody Marks and Nick Chubb again next week like they did tonight.
I'd like to ask you both on the way out about a guy that you've covered that spans literally lifetimes, different teams, different networks, different times in all of our lives, right? And that's Aaron Rodgers, and I heard you talking about it at the end. If this is indeed the end, that's a wrap. We put the book on the shelf. How do you guys both sort of view his place in the game?
I mean, I'll let him go because you played this position, and when Aaron Rodgers was at his best, man, we saw a guy that just could use his legs, his arm, throw off, any platform, whatever you want to say. The guy was unmatched.
Yeah, I mean, as far as how you rank him and all that, I mean, and the numbers speak for themselves and what he's been able to accomplish. I never imagined, to be honest with you, that Aaron Rodgers would play into his 40s, and I'm not so sure that he did either. It's hard to believe, if you go back to 2010, when he won his Super Bowl, that would be the only Super Bowl he would get to play in. And then also that's the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers have made the Super Bowl as well. I mean, that was a long time ago, but it just kind of tells you that you really can't count on anything. As young as those teams were, and as young as Mike Tomlin was, and Aaron Rodgers, and this is a disappointing end to what has been a great career. But the end usually doesn't happen the way you want it to. John Elway is one of the few, but he had a great career, and he's among the tops for sure.
Yeah, and I think just to wrap up with Aaron, I mean, it hasn't been without controversy off the field. On the field, he's been sensational to watch and been a total professional. Off the field, he is himself, and for some people, they get rubbed the wrong way, but he's kind of always been there, willing to say how he feels. He's interesting. And I think in a day and age where professional athletes kind of retreat to the old cliches, he's been an interesting guy to follow. He's always been very open and honest with us. He's been a joy to watch, and, this game will miss him if this is the end.
Well, I would use the word interesting euphemistically there. I would think of him in another way. We'll get to some of the things that Rodgers said, but this could have been the end Troy Aikman, Hall of Famer, 3 Super Bowl championships. His last play, he got knocked out of a game on a non-playoff team by LeVar Arrington with a concussion in 2000. It's kind of the way it ends for even all the legends, or most of the legends. This was maybe the end for Aaron Rodgers, the final pass of his career.
This feels like the type of thing that could propel.
Nope, that's not it. This was the last pass.
Here's an interception for good measure. It's picked off by Bullock. And Rodgers is in his way, trying to make the tackle. Can't. And it's a touchdown, Texans.
And shortly thereafter, sitting on the bench and taken out of the game for Mason Rudolph when it became 30-6. Lisa Salters reporting from the sideline.
When you look at Aaron Rodgers over here on the sidelines, you can't help but wonder what he's thinking. We asked him a few weeks ago when we were here, week 15, we asked him, is this it? And he said, probably. He said that's what he's been saying all year. He said the team has been great. He doesn't know what the Steelers' plans are for the future, but he said for him, it feels like this is the end. He said it's been a really fun year. He at that time, he just wanted to go on a run and make the playoffs. That did happen. But he said, I feel really good about what's happened this year, and that's what I've been saying all year. It just feels like the end.
It does feel like the end, and the final stamp of goodbye coming from Kalen Bullock with the pick 6 that cemented the game and maybe ended the career of Aaron Rodgers. And I think back of the way it ended for Sonny Jurgensen, who did lead the league in passing percentage at the age of 40 in 1974. He was hurt a lot, didn't play all that many games, but his completion percentage was 64%, which was excellent in those days. He threw for only 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. But in his last game, which was a playoff game against the Rams in Los Angeles, he was called in for an ineffective Billy Kilmer, and he threw 3 interceptions. And the last one was returned 58 yards for a touchdown by Isaiah Robertson. Isaiah Robertson, ironically, was the first pick that the Rams used after George Allen traded most of his draft for 1971 and 1972 to Los Angeles for a bunch of his former players, including Jack Pardee, and there were a bunch of others that came over. Myron Patios, I remember, came in that trade. There were like 6 or 7 guys who came over from the Rams who had played for Allen. And it's kind of like Kurt Cignetti taking his James Madison team to Indiana many generations earlier. And Isaiah Robertson was taken by the Rams by one of the picks that George Allen had sent them, and he put the final end to Sonny Jurgensen's career with a pick six, and it may have gone the same way for Aaron Rodgers last night. As for some of the things that he said in the postgame, and he refused to say whether or not he's going to retire. We always go through a lot of drama with him, so there's going to be, the sleeping in darkness for a week, the meditation. Some team may reach out to him. He may string him along like he did the Steelers this past season, but he did decide that he was going to defend his coach. And there are discussions, we saw it with John Harbaugh, that maybe Mike Tomlin failing to win a playoff game for the seventh straight time, that I think is a new record or ties a record, 7 straight playoff losses. This was Aaron Rodgers sticking up for the coach and saying, what are we talking about here in this day and age about firing coaches?
This league has changed a lot in my 21 years. When you hear conversation about the Mike Tomlins of the world, Matt LaFleur's of the world, those are just two that kind of I've played for. And when I first got in the league, there wouldn't be conversation about whether those guys were on the hot seat. But the way that the league is covered now, and the way that there's snap decisions and the validity given to the Twitter experts and all the experts on TV now who make it seem like they know what the hell they're talking about. To me, that's an absolute joke. And for either of those two guys to be on the hot seat is really apropos of where we're at as a society and a league, because obviously Matt's done a lot of great things in Green Bay, and we had a lot of success. Mike T has had more success than damn near anybody in the league. For the last 19, 20 years. And more than that, though, when you have the right guy and the culture is right, you don't think about making a change. But there's a lot of pressure that comes from the outside, and obviously that sways decisions from time to time, but it's not how I would do things and not how the league used to be.
Well, that's not true at all. It's 100% not true. Marty Schottenheimer went 14-2 in 2006, lost a playoff game to New England, got fired. I want to go back to 1978, 1979, the height of Love Ya Blue, what Bum Phillips did in turning around a franchise that had been nowhere, adding Earl Campbell. They made it to the AFC Championship game back-to-back years after the 78-79 season, lost to the Steelers both times. Steelers both times went on to win the Super Bowl. 2 years later, Bum Phillips got fired by the Houston Oilers. That's the way things work, pal. That's just the way things have always worked in the NFL. Jack Pardee, a year after getting the Redskins within a whisker of winning the division, a great comeback by Roger Staubach, beat them in Dallas in a year that they finished 10-6. Okay, they slid the next year to 6-10. He got fired, which turned out to be a good thing because then Joe Gibbs came in, and the rest is history. But this has been going on for decades and decades and decades in the NFL. Don't give us this, it's so much different now than when I came in the league. No, it's not. No, it's not. There's a level of expectation. And these coaches get paid an awful lot of money not to just have a winning season and go out in the first round. Doesn't work that way. So if that was the parting words, and I'll give you the parting words of Aaron Rodgers with the pick six, that puts a capper on a career that was really great, but ends not so gracefully. And in his last sentence, once again, asked about his coach, Mike Tomlin, he dropped an F-bomb, which I have edited out.
What did you learn from being with Mike for a season about him?
I've answered that a number of times. I've talked extensively about how I feel about Mike. And I just did, and that can answer. So, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Aaron. Goodbye. And whatever's next for you is fine. If there's television, maybe he's going to be on the Pat McAfee show. Maybe he's going to become an analyst like Tom Brady, or maybe he's just going to sit in the woods and meditate, which is okay too. It's just fine. But at 42, and he'd be 43 during next season, I can't see anybody bringing him back, along with all the drama that goes along with him. But, of course, we did see Phillip Rivers come back after 5 years out and out of shape and acquitted himself pretty well. He went 0-3, but that's how sparse quarterbacks are these days. Couple of stats from this Texan win last night, this devastating win. Their defense was awesome. D'Amico Ryans, great coach, took over a team that was an absolute mess and has made them a regular participant in the playoffs. C.J. Stroud is on his way. He's maybe not going to be a top 3 or 4 quarterback, but he's going to be a top 7 or 8 quarterback as time goes on. But the defense was tremendous. Steelers held to just 175 yards. Rodgers was forced into 2 turnovers for touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times. And this is a cool stat, according to ESPN research, Houston became the second team in playoff history to score multiple defensive touchdowns in a game without giving up a TD, joining Chicago, which achieved the feat in the 1940 NFL championship game against Washington. And if you don't know, the Bears won that game 73-0. 73-0. So, once again, there are 2 teams in NFL history that have scored multiple defensive touchdowns in a game without giving one up. It's the 1940 Bears, won here in Washington, 73-0, and the Houston Texans last night. As a matter of fact, back in 1940, they didn't have the nets that they would put up behind the goalpost when the kicker would kick the extra point. So when the game got out of hand, the referees said to the Bears, "Would you please go for 2 now? We're running out of footballs." They couldn't kick any more footballs into the stands until I guess somebody eventually came up with the idea, hey, why don't we put a net up there and keep the ball from going into the stands? Now, this defense, by the way, and what they're doing to Hall of Fame quarterbacks, they have now forced 3 different MVP quarterbacks, Buffalo's Josh Allen, Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes, and now Rodgers, into multiple turnover games. And they forced Rodgers into a 14.3 QBR. That would obviously be the worst mark of his playoff career, 22 starts in the playoffs. He's never had a game that bad. So they're going to be a handful. And that looks, if you saw the game the other night that New England played against the Chargers, that has the look of like a 10-7 type of game. That'll be the early game on Sunday, Houston at New England. The late game will be the Rams at Chicago. And on Saturday at 4:30, Buffalo plays at Denver, and San Francisco plays at Seattle at 8. I thought for sure that they were going to put Denver in the late game and hope for snow, but could still have snow, but it'll be a 3 o'clock kickoff. And what would that be? 1 o'clock Mountain Time, right? Mountain Time, 2 hours ahead of us. So there's that. All right, coming up, we'll get back to the Indiana discussion. I want to get what Tony and Mike said yesterday on PTI and also make a comparison to the movie Miracle. But also, there was an appearance by Stephen A. Smith last night, and I go back to the show that my buddy Zabe wants to put on ESPN, Facts versus Volume. And Stephen A. delivered on volume. Facts, not so much, but he was there for the nation to see last night. We'll get to that and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
When the book is written on the career of Stephen A. Smith, it will be fascinating to look at his rise to at least where he is financially. He's making a reported $20 million a year. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's just more of his hype machine. And ESPN is letting him do something that they haven't let other people do in the past, and that's express themselves politically. He's got shows somewhere along with his sports radio show on Sirius XM, and then all the work that he does for ESPN. He's all over the place. And he happened to be in Pittsburgh yesterday because the morning show that he's on, the shouting show that he's a part of, was in Pittsburgh to hype the fact that ESPN was televising the Steelers and the Texans last night in the playoff game. That a lot of networks do that. So, okay, they're doing their show from there. And, he happens to be in Pittsburgh. So he wanders on to the Countdown Show, which I think is excellent. It's hosted by Scott Van Pelt. and they had Ryan Clark on it, and Marcus Spears, and Jason Kelsey, and I think they do a good job. And with all those people, I don't think you needed Stephen A. Smith on this show, but okay, Stephen A. Smith is there. He comes down onto the field. I didn't know this. I know he hates the Cowboys, and that's been a big part of his act that, you know, when the Cowboys lose, he puts on a cowboy hat and a cigar, and he starts laughing at him. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, all right, so that's part of the show. But he came armed with a couple of statistics, not many, but this was the type of insight that he was able to add to a show that included former football players, 3 of them, which he is not, and a very, very competent host in Scott Van Pelt. And as far as I know, Stephen A. doesn't host any shows. He's a part of it, but don't they have a woman who throws out the questions that they can all yell about? I think I never watched the show, but I think that's what it's about. So they got Stephen A. Smith there, and I know this, but he now identifies as a Steeler fan, leading Scott Van Pelt to ask him this question.
As a Steelers fan, and you are, the mentality of tonight for you is what?
They better win. That's what the mentality is. They better win. Look, man, you ain't won a playoff game since 2016. In the 6 playoff games you lost, they've been outscored 73-0 in the first quarter. They've been down at least 21 points in every game. That is unacceptable. That has nothing to do with Steeler Nation. I'm talking to a champion here. He knows he can't refute this. It's not enough to get here. You got to win one game at least. You got to win a playoff game. We know listen, you love Mike Tomlin, you revere him, you appreciate the 19 years of success that he has had, but damn it, in the same breath, they've been on Super Bowl in a long time, since 2008. You ain't been the one since 2010. I'm a Steelers fan. We have suffered. Now I understand that this guy right here, I appreciate where he's coming from, and I understand that he's a former player. I'm just a fan, but damn it, I matter, because we have suffered, and it's supposed to end
ease
tonight.
His suffering.
I'm here.
You must ease his suffering.
Hey, listen, I know how this guy gets around. He ain't suffering. I've been to your house in Miami.
Yeah, it's very lucrative. Ryan Clark's right. It makes him a lot of. I just don't get it. What is the nutritional value of someone who I guess is a Steeler fan, though he grew up in New York? I know he's a Knick fan. Just yelling that they need to win. Yeah, they need to win. They didn't win. They were 0-6 in their last 6 playoff games prior to last night. Now they're 0-7. They've been outscored early. That's somewhat of an interesting stat. Outscored 73-0 in the first quarter of games. But it was just a minute and 6 seconds of, yeah, they got to win. Got it. Got it, Steve. Understand. You know, am I jealous of what he makes? Damn right. But I understand why they're paying him that money, because he's bringing eyeballs to the set. They monitor this stuff pretty carefully. And if he wasn't worth it, they wouldn't give him the money. I don't think this was a case of, well, yeah, let's just give him the money because we like him. No, they must think that there's value in that, and they have people who are far more skilled and know a hell of a lot more, because I don't know anything about how television ratings work and whether a certain profile person like Stephen A. is worth that kind of money. But man, I just don't get what comes along with that. I prefer more interesting analysis, and I watch PTI pretty much every night. Yes, I'm old. I eat dinner at 5:30 when I watch PTI, but okay, that's how I live. And Tony and Mike yesterday took on something that has become very near and dear to my heart, and that is Indiana football, which is on its way to whatever happens in the national championship game on Monday. An incredibly remarkable season. A program that had been the losingest program in college football history is now one win away from a perfect season and a national championship. And they played the word game yesterday. They do that when they don't have a guest. So they played the word game, Tony and Mike on PTI, with the word Indiana and how you describe them.
What's the word for Indiana's win over Oregon?
My word is unbelievable. My word for everything that has happened since they've gotten Curt Cignetti is unbelievable. They went over 100 years, loss after loss after loss after loss. Curt Cignetti is now 26-2 and 15-0 this year. They rolled. You want to talk about roll tide? They rolled Alabama 38-3. They were the only bye team in 2 years to win. Then they rolled Oregon 56-22. Okay, their combined scores against Oregon, Ohio State, and Alabama this year, I believe that's 4 games total, is 107-36, right? The Indiana defense cost the Oregon quarterback, Dante Moore, about $100 million. First play, pick 6, and then 2 bad fumbles after that. Meanwhile, Fernando Mendoza, that guy now has, in the 2 games he's played in the playoffs, he has more touchdowns, 8, than he has incompletions, 5. I'm going to give you a number now that is impossible to believe. The plus-minus in 15 games for Indiana this year is plus 473. Let me repeat that, 473. That's not possible, right? You know why? Because it's unbelievable.
There are other words, and they are in that line, fictional and cinematic. This is a movie script. You don't have this. Where Indiana, not the other football program in the state, Notre Dame, Indiana, they are pounding people. Tony, the only thing I wonder, I'm going back to 1983 season. I think it was January 1st or 2nd of 84 when we had Nebraska, which was all powerful.
Right.
And they played the U. And the U won that game on a Nebraska missed 2-pointer. But Irving Fryer dropped a pass.
Because Nebraska had a history of winning national championships.
Yes.
These people cannot ever let their foot off the gas because they've never won anything.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the one game.
So you're predicting Miami to win?
No, I'm not predicting. I'm just saying when it's too good to be true, maybe it is. Indiana
it hasn't been so far.
Has pummeled people.
Plus 473.
I'll give you another one. Maybe it's Ali Liston. I mean, you know where you just go, these people have no chance.
Right.
Except they have a chance.
So you're in the Big Ten. You pay attention to the Big Ten.
I watch Indiana every snap.
And how terrible have they been your whole life?
There's only now, officially, one school that has more losses.
I believe it's the purple.
I don't want to say it out loud.
I believe it's the purple.
But you know, unlike other regions of the country where people hate their rivals and they won't.
You don't hate
I'm
Indiana.
rooting for Indiana.
You should.
I am.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah, of course you root for Indiana. And there really hasn't been a rivalry with Indiana and Northwestern unless it was to stay out of the basement of the Big Ten. They were terrible. Both teams have been terrible, and I think there were multiple seasons in a row that Northwestern didn't win a game. Like they used to play 11, so it was like 0-11 seasons for close to 3 years. And Indiana wasn't much better. And by winning like they have just in the last 2 years, what are they, 26-2 with Cignetti? That's incredible. And, there's kind of a myth that's actually being played up by the Indiana players. And that myth is that we're misfits. Fernando Mendoza said it. We're just a bunch of misfits. Not really. There's not a lot of guys on the team that are high-star recruits, 4- and 5-star recruits, very few of those. But it's a team of really good players who love football. And so I've likened what Cignetti has done, and when they make the movie, and by the way, there's a story in the New York Post today that Angelo Pizzo, who made Hoosiers 40 years ago. Hoosiers came out 40 years ago. Gene Hackman is dead. But that was a great, great sports movie in the discussion, greatest sports movie ever made, about a small-town Indiana high school that wins the Indiana State Championship where basketball really matters. And so Pizzo is an Indiana native, and he's obviously got interest in this story. And you heard Cignetti after the Rose Bowl say it would make a hell of a movie. Maybe he'd already talked to Pizzo about this. I don't know. But if Kurt Russell were younger, he would be the perfect one to play Cignetti. You know why? Because he's pretty much already played him in a movie that I think he should have won an Academy Award for, and that was Miracle, about the 1980 Olympic hockey team. And this scene is, to me, symbolic of what Cignetti has done at Indiana. This is Kurt Russell as Herb Brooks, and he's talking to Noah Wiley, who plays Craig Patrick. Craig Patrick, the assistant, who later became, I think he became the coach, either the coach or the GM of the Caps later on. And this is during the tryouts for the Olympic hockey team. And Kurt Russell has the list of the players that he's narrowed it down to. There's only going to be 6 players cut to get to the 20 that they need for the Olympic competition. And this is the incredulous assistant, Craig Patrick, played by Noah Wiley, with Kurt Russell in the movie Miracle.
What's this?
26 names. Tough part will be getting it down to 20 before the opening ceremonies.
This is the final roster? You're kidding me, right? This is our first day here. We got a week of this. And what about the advisory staff? Aren't they supposed to have a say in this?
Technically, I guess.
You're missing some of the best players.
I'm not looking for the best players, Craig. I'm looking for the right ones.
Oh, you're missing some of the best players. I'm not looking for the best players, Craig. I'm looking for the right ones. And, well, that is true at Indiana. And clearly they have the right ones. They haven't lost a game this year and have been steamrolling through the playoffs. But Pat Forty did a dive onto the roster, Pat Forty of SI.com. And this is a terrific column if you haven't read it yet. And he points out that, yeah, okay, there's not a lot of 4- and 5-star recruits there, but realize this. Fernando Mendoza could go number 1 overall. He says we'll go no lower than number 5. Mel Kiper says he's going to be the number 1 pick by the Raiders. Wideout Elijah Sarrett is projected as a first-round pick, as is D'Angelo Pons. He's the one that picked off the first pass of the game for a touchdown. He talked to an AFC scout who told him that Indiana's roster is a bunch of guys who will play a long time in this league, football players, guys who love the game. It will be the most Indiana players ever drafted for a long time. And I've told you this, that Chris Cooley said to me many years ago that you would be surprised at how many guys don't love football. And you have to find the ones that love the game. And clearly that's what he's done. And you know, some of it has to do with guys who have been in his system. This is the last year that he will have some of the guys that came with him from James Madison when he came over here. But he has managed to accumulate other guys who have NFL talent. Left tackle Carter Smith, he's projected as a top 10 pick. Wideout Omar Cooper, 22 career touchdowns. He's going to be drafted. Aiden Fisher, the linebacker, he came with him from James Madison. And if you're going to James Madison, there ain't a lot of other schools that are recruiting you. Trust me. Pat Coogan, who I think is one of the most interesting players on the Indiana roster. He was the starting center on a Notre Dame team that went to the national championship game last year. And rather than run it back, and who wouldn't want to go into their senior year at Notre Dame as a starting player off a team that had made it to the championship? No. He stayed in state, but he went to Indiana because he thought he had a better chance to win at Indiana. Roman Hemby, the running back, he's going to be drafted. Played 4 years at Maryland. Wanted to stay another year, and this is, part of the process. The way it works is that Mike Loxley said to him, you can stay here for another year, but I got some studs coming in, and I need to play them. So we kind of pushed him out the door. He pushed him to the right place because he may win a national championship on Monday night. And he, as 40 writes here at SI.com, by the time the third day of the draft is complete, Indiana will have more players drafted in the top 100 picks than a majority of FBS schools. And then he talks about these internet rumors, which is where they are accusing Indiana of stealing practice video, or they just have a roster of grown men older than the majority of the rest of college football. Hey, the rules are there for everybody. You want to recruit older players, you can. And as 40 points out, Vanderbilt and Wake Forest and Northwestern and Oregon State, they all routinely have had the oldest teams in college football prior to the explosion of the NIL. The NIL changed that as well. And he said all of them, but except for a breakout season here and there, they struggled to reach bowl eligibility. Just because you have older players doesn't mean you're going to win. And he said Arkansas had 17 fourth- or fifth-year starters in 2025, won 2 games, fired its coach. Penn State, loaded with fourth- and fifth-year players. What happened there? James Franklin got the boot. Nebraska, Arizona State, Wisconsin, all of them stunk, and they didn't have young players. They had old players. And He talks about what happened at Ole Miss, where they built a roster with 15 starters who were 4- or 5th-year players and defensive stop away from reaching the national championship game. And Forty concludes by writing, there were no grassy knolls with the Ole Miss build-out, only the concrete fact of a dumb move by a self-centered coach that galvanized the entirety of college football around a team that prior to 2020 was an historical loser in the modern era of sport. So it's a quaint notion to think, oh, yeah, Indiana, a bunch of misfits, and they're all pulling together. No. There's a lot of talent on this roster, and it's talent that was identified by Cignetti, who, as Kurt Russell, as Herb Brooks said, I don't want the best players, I want the right players. Love that. Love that scene in the movie. One other note of this college football playoff, Dylan Raiola has committed to Oregon. He's been a 2-year starter at Nebraska, broke his leg this year, so missed a bunch of games, but the season ended after 9 games. But he's going to sign, apparently, with Oregon. Now, Dante Moore could play another year. Dante Moore has been in college for 3 years. He played sparingly at UCLA, transferred to Oregon, sat behind Dylan Gabriel last year, has had certainly a breakout year this year. But if you've been listening to Mel Kiper, he's saying, go back to school. Get yourself more experience. The history of quarterbacks who start for only 1 year, it's not good. It's not good. Get yourself more experience, although, it's hard to turn down possibly being the number 2 pick in the draft. So he may come out. But if he does not, if he listens to Mel, what about Dylan Raiola? Now, he could say, well, I broke my leg. Let me get a full year to get things back on track and learn the system. And then when we do see more leave, then I'll be ready to step in. Maybe that makes sense. But there's also the possibility, and this is the way college football works these days, with Dylan Raiola committing to Oregon, there may be a decision in the next few weeks by Moore who says, nah, I need another year. I'm going to come back, and you'll see Dylan Raiola leave. He'll go someplace else. And the going rate, according to some of these reports, like Miami's willing to pay, because they're going to need a quarterback next year, they're willing to pay $6.5 million for a quarterback. So they'll do it. That's kind of the way things go in college football. So or Moore will beat them there. Maybe Moore goes to Miami. That's the name of the game. That's the way the game is played. And when you play the game without rules, that's what happens. All right, coming up, we'll get back to more of what looks like the end of the run for Aaron Rodgers and what's next for the Steelers and Coach Mike Tomlin, plus more preview of the big national championship game on Monday. Sorry, I'm invested. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630. Oh, the coaching go-round. We go through it every year. Where are these coaches going to land? We are 8 days removed from Black Monday, and so far, we haven't seen any of these jobs filled. Could happen soon. Could have a couple of them this week. John Harbaugh seems to be a very hot candidate. Reports are the Giants are after him in a big way. Commanders still need a defensive coordinator, but he's got interviews for head coaching jobs lined up as well. This will all sort itself out soon, but this big dance that we go through every year hasn't changed. Hasn't changed in decades, and you can always count on at least 6 or 7. We've had 8 so far. There could still be more. Nothing is for certain. We don't even know what's going on in Green Bay at this point, but we're keeping an eye on everything, and we'll get to that. Just a quick thing on, not that this is going to be a huge hire for Washington, but this would be an intriguing one if it happens. You know that they have moved David Blau from quarterback's coach to offensive coordinator, meaning that they need a quarterback's coach. And according to Nikki Jabala of The Athletic, Washington has requested an interview with Falcons quarterback's coach DJ Williams. DJ Williams is the son of, and you can probably guess what DJ stands for, that would be Doug Jr., Doug Williams Jr. And it's not unusual. This happens, and when Marty Schottenheimer was here as the head coach, he had his brother Kurt Schottenheimer coaching the defense. That happens. But I don't know. That might be a ticklish situation if things don't work out. That Doug Williams is this legendary player. He's got a role in the organization, which it's not ceremonial, but it's all about the stature that he holds and the mentoring that he does of players and so forth. He's a good person to have in the organization. And if you bring in his son and it doesn't work out, what does that mean? How uncomfortable is that? So forth. And so I guess, when you hire somebody, you don't think it's necessarily going to be, he's going to fail. You don't think that way going in. But I just found that to be interesting. But before we get back to the Texans game last night and what the future holds for Lovie Smith and apparently for Aaron Rodgers, whose last pass was a pick six. We saw Sonny Jurgensen do that over 50 years ago when his career ended after a playoff loss to the Rams in 1974. But I want to mention this because it's affecting me. No other way to put this. I like to watch college basketball, particularly Maryland basketball. I'm watching them for 50-some years. And when they were in the ACC, okay, for television, sometimes they would be part of a doubleheader on ESPN, and they might tip at 9. 9's not great for me, but the game would be over before 11 o'clock, and if it was a big game, I'd stay up for it. But they were in a conference with teams all in the same time zone. So whenever they played a road game, it was going to start at a reasonable time unless television said, no, we need to tip it at 9 o'clock. Okay, that's the latest. That's the latest they can do it. Well, with all the expansion, and it's all about television, you now have teams in the same conference that can be 3 time zones away, as is the case with the last 2 opponents for Maryland, the UCLA game over the weekend and the USC game tonight. At least they were able to make one trip out of it. They didn't have to schlep back and forth to the West Coast, but they've been in California probably since Friday, right? The game was Saturday night against UCLA, so they've been there since Friday. And then they'll fly home, take the red-eye home after tonight's game against USC. And the Saturday game was 8 o'clock. I wasn't really able to focus on it because there was football going on. NFL swallows up college basketball at this time of year. Really, we don't start paying attention to college basketball that much until after the Super Bowl, and there's only a couple of weeks left in the regular season at that point, and then they launch into the conference tournaments and March Madness. And March Madness, those 3 weeks really define college basketball right now. But if you like to watch regular season games, this is just not convenient. There's a league game tonight. Now, it's a league game on a weekend. You can put it at 5 o'clock West Coast time, 8 o'clock here. That's a reasonable time. 10:30 tip tonight at USC. And it's a league game. It's not like they have some special game that they're playing on the West Coast. Sometimes you'll do that when you got top teams. Maryland once opened the season against UCLA, 1973. Lefty Driesell wanted to take on the number 1 team. They were defending champions. And he thought if you knock off UCLA, people notice you. And they almost did. They lost by 1 point. The game was featured in Sports Illustrated with Len Elmore trying to block Bill Walton's shot on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And that team is a forever team because they lost to NC State in the ACC championship game, didn't get to go to the NCAA tournament. They changed the rules, started to have at-large teams, went to 32, and eventually now 68. Unfortunately, they want to expand it again, but that all started. Anyway, the point being, if you're going to be in a league, the original intent was that you would have it so it would be convenient for teams to play one another. Duke and North Carolina are 8 miles apart. Of course you put them in the same conference, and they still are. But all the movements that's going on in college sports right now, it's all about, I know, the television markets. So it wasn't enough for the Big Ten to not only have the Midwest and then add the East Coast with Rutgers and Maryland. Nope, they're going to gobble up the West Coast too. So they pick up UCLA and USC, and that means that Maryland has to go out there and play them. And it's just maddening to me anyway. I go to bed early. I'm sorry. I'm old. That's what I do. And a game that tips at 10:30 just doesn't work for me. And, college basketball's got to look at 2 factors in getting attention during their season. One is the NFL, obviously, but the other is college football. College football should not be wrapping up on the 19th of January. It should be ending on January 1st. It should be all over with at that point. You open the portal the next day, and you get ready for next season. To stretch it out another almost 3 weeks here is ridiculous. And I will be interested in the national championship game on Monday night, of course, because my son went to Indiana and I have a rooting interest. But as I felt it last year, you're coming off an enormous weekend in the NFL. You've got the 4 playoff games. You got 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. The game on Sunday, the latest one is 6:30, which means it's not going to be over until 10 o'clock. And then you got the college football championship the next day. And are you really going to be that invested in it after watching what would be what? If you're watching 2 football games, that's 7 hours on Saturday. You've invested 14 hours of football watching over the weekend to watch another game that's going to go another 3.5 to 4, and they're kicking it off at 7:50, which means it's not going to be over till probably 11:30 or so, 11:15. I don't know. But this is about television, and I guess there's enough television dollars to make that work. It just doesn't work for me. Okay. Houston Texans, devastating defense again last night. This is an amazing stat. They're only the second team in NFL history in a postseason game to get multiple defensive touchdowns without giving up a TD. The 30-6 win last night over the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and the Chicago Bears win at Griffith Stadium in 1940 when they won 73-0. That's it. DeMeco Ryans is the coach of the Texans. There was not great fanfare when he was hired. He was replacing a defensive coach in Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith knew he was going to be fired. He gave the Texans a big middle finger on his way out the door by winning the last game, which cost them the number 1 draft pick. They took C.J. Stroud, and they're back in the playoffs again. And now, for the first time in team history, they win a playoff game on the road with DeMeco Ryans and his devastating defense, which he celebrated with his team in the locker room.
Hey, how about them Texans?
Hey, man, couldn't be more proud of you guys, man. To come here, very tough place to play. And the way we finish the game is how we operate. Offense, for you guys to go down, drive the ball, run it, keep running. They know we're running it. We know we're running it. And the drive, how we finished that was outstanding by you guys. All right, way to bounce back. Didn't start pretty, but it don't matter, man. We finished the right way. So great job by you guys. Oh, one person to highlight on offense, all right? CK, where you at, baby? Man, he set the playoff record for the Texans. 8 catches for over 140 yards, man. And then, hey, if you want to play good football, you want to play good playoff football, you got to play great defense, right? Defense, that's the least amount of yards allowed in Texans playoff history, least amount of points, right? Then you back it on top with 2 defensive touchdowns. Outstanding job, Ringo. And Caleb, where you at, Caleb? All right, guys. And most of all, guys, just a lot of history being made. This was the first road playoff game for the Texans, all right, in the history of the organization. So congrats to all you guys. It took everybody in here to get that done. But as we all know, that's just one. We got to go get a few more. All right? That's just one. That's just one. Great job coming here, handling business, doing what we got to do. Back to work. Back to work. It's a pleasure. It's a blessing to continue to work. You guys earned that right. Now, how we put the work in, now we know we got to go up to England next week. Let's go get it done. All right? Love you guys. Appreciate the work. Outstanding victory by everybody. Texans! Whoa!
Yeah, so that's DeMeco Ryans, coach of the Texans. I'll note this. It's not necessarily a big criticism of other coaches around the league, but Ben Johnson got a lot of attention over the weekend by yelling at his team, F the Packers, F the Packers. And a lot of coaches do this. Dan Quinn drops a lot of F-bombs when he does those speeches with the teams, and everybody has a different style of coaching. But if you use that word too frequently, it loses its impact. And I've been around minor league baseball players who managed to insert the big F into sentences, but I didn't think they'd be able to do it. But I really admired what he did there. He had a celebration with his team, bunch of men, everybody's, juiced up, testosterone, the whole thing. Didn't use a single curse word. That was kind of cool. Mike Tomlin, what's going to happen now? We've already seen John Harbaugh shown the door, actually fired. It wasn't like, mutual parting of the ways or anything. The report was that he was driving home from the football facility and he got a call from Steve Bisciotti, the owner, who fired him over the phone while he was driving. That's a hell of a way to go out after 18 years. Mike Tomlin has just completed 19. It ends with a loss, and naturally he's having to answer questions about his future in the postgame.
Particularly when you're in this tournament, talk's cheap. It's about what you do or don't do, and certainly as a collective, we didn't do it tonight.
Mike, you mentioned the missed opportunities. Is that something that weighs on a team as you go mentally, especially?
No, I didn't believe that it eroded us, in any way. But certainly, comes a point in time where you got to make plays, and we just didn't do that. But I didn't think it was any collective mental attrition to it. It's just we didn't make plays.
Anyone else? Mike, do these moments get any more difficult for you as the years go on?
I don't necessarily compare it to any other moment. It's the here and now, and certainly it's difficult. But that's what we sign up for, and that's the life we live.
Mike, how do you approach a decision about your future?
I'm not even in that mindset as I sit here tonight. I'm more in the mindset of what transpired in this stadium and, certainly what we did and didn't do. Not a big picture mentality as I sit here tonight.
You've walked off the field with Cam and Aaron together all season this year. Tonight, you walked off pretty quickly with Aaron behind you. Just kind of what happened there?
What do you mean?
You've walked off with the two of them.
I only walk off the field with those guys on road victories. So, if you've been paying attention, that's what it is. I walk off the field with those guys on road wins. And so certainly tonight didn't fall into that category.
No, it was a home loss. Totally different. That's Cam Hayward that he's referring to, plus Aaron Rodgers, who may have played his last game in the NFL. One last swing at Tomlin and what to tell the fans, and as his future is at least cloudy.
When you don't get it done, words are cheap. It's about what you do or you don't do. And so I appreciate the question, but people talk too much in our business. You either do or you don't.
Yeah, people talk too much. Should have just left it at that. Ross Tucker, who is based in Pennsylvania and actually did the game last night for Westwood One. He was on with Dan Patrick yesterday and looking at the Philadelphia Eagles from the day before and looking at it this way, that this was an opportunity for a team that had won the Super Bowl the year before, and this is why I've incredibly admired over the years the Buffalo Bills gone to 4 straight. I know they didn't win any of them, but they went to 4 straight. What the Kansas City Chiefs did in going to 3 of them, winning 2, amazing. And this was an opportunity for the Eagles to make a run back at it. And as Ross Tucker pointed out with Dan Patrick, a very much of a missed opportunity.
It's not many guys for the 49ers would start for the Eagles, which is why I would say that game yesterday and the season in particular are really a massive missed opportunity for the Eagles. Dan, you've been doing this a long time. Windows are small. The Eagles have the best roster in the NFL, probably again, and most of them are in their prime. And to not even win a playoff game, and in particular to lose at home to that beat-up team, that's one that, people will look back on and say, how did that happen when we had that roster and that group of guys that they didn't go on any type of run in the postseason?
Any fallout in Philadelphia?
I think there will be a decent amount of changes. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a couple years ago when they had the disappointing ending, they moved on from both coordinators. They brought in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, and those were big factors in them going ahead and winning the Super Bowl last year. They also were aggressive, getting guys like Saquon Barkley and others. Certainly it feels like They'll probably have a new offensive coordinator. Right or wrong, I think the perception is such that I'd be surprised if Kevin Patullo kept his job. It feels like it's run its course with A.J. Brown. Maybe not. We'll see. It's a pretty big dead cap hit if they trade him before June 1st. But there's certainly some significant changes along the way because they know this. They're very smart. They know that this was a big missed opportunity and that they only have a couple more years here with this core group being in their prime and having a chance to really make a run at this thing.
So why did it fail? Actually, pretty good explanation from Damian Woody, who's usually part of the show that they do in the morning, Get Up, I guess. He pops in the studio every now and then, and he was in there yesterday discussing the playoffs and what he'd seen the day before with the Eagles going out. And he had an interesting spin on what happened to Philadelphia. All the people who want to get rid of Kevin Patullo. He kind of agrees with the fact that it hasn't worked out with him. But this was his take on the Eagles' exit, as well as what else is happening around the league with the playoffs now down to 8 teams.
Shout out to Kellen Moore. You know the sign of a really good coach is when they leave, not only how they're doing the place that they're at, but what does their former place look like?
Good point.
You look at the Saints, look at the momentum they ended with a rookie quarterback and how well he played the last, 4 or 5 weeks in the season when they ended on a 4-game winning streak. And then look at how the Eagles offense looked all season long. It's like night and day. And all those guys on the Eagles regressed this year. All of them, from the linemen, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown. Name one guy that you felt like when you watched the Eagles, oh, yeah, that guy is playing better than what he played last year.
Goddard, that's it.
Goddard, yeah, maybe Goddard. Other than that, it's just been regression across the board for the Philadelphia Eagles on offense.
We got to talk about the Chargers. 0-2 in the postseason under Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Herbert winless in the postseason overall. We always talk about Justin Herbert being a quarterback that comes out of a lab, and we have said that Jim Harbaugh is the guy in the NFL who hasn't won a championship that you give the benefit of the doubt to the most. Your thoughts on the Chargers and their exit in the postseason last night?
I wasn't surprised by the last night at all. Think about it. Justin Herbert got sacked 60 times this year. This dude has been beat up, battered, and bruised. And by the way, he's on a trajectory of Joe Burrow type trajectory as far as getting beat up in the National Football League. Now, I think there are two different scenarios because the injuries to their stud tackles played a huge role in what we saw from the Los Angeles Chargers this year. But nothing about last night surprised me. I thought the Patriots were a better team. You get Milton Williams back on that defense. He makes such a huge difference for the New England Patriots. And listen, offensively, it wasn't anything to, there wasn't anything to really cheer about with the Patriots. But listen, they're a well-coached team, and they're going to be hard to beat in the playoffs. So as far as the Chargers are concerned, nothing surprised me last night about the outcome of that game.
Let's go to the Bills and the Jaguars. We all said, hey, this is it. Josh Allen, no Mahomes, no Lamar, no Burrow. Walk us through your thoughts on what Josh Allen did yesterday.
He's the best player in the league. Josh Allen is the best player in the league, and you can't convince me otherwise. What Josh Allen was able to do with no running game. Jacksonville's number one defense, they held up their end of the bargain. The Bills could not, with their number one rushing attack, they couldn't run the ball on Jacksonville. And all Josh Allen did was complete 80% of his passes, 3 touchdowns. He's a machine. He's a machine. And Jacksonville was beating him up. I didn't know if Josh Allen was going to be able to make it through that game, but the dude just time and time again, timely passes, big plays when he needed it, when the Bills needed it the most. He's that dude, man. I got the ultimate amount of respect for Josh Allen. He's really that dude.
I want to go back to the Philadelphia Eagles because you were spinning it positive for Kellen Moore and what they've done, but clearly things have to change in Philly.
Yes.
What needs to be the biggest change?
Again, unfortunately, new offensive coordinator.
Another offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts.
Yes. Another offensive coordinator, which is terrible for Jalen Hurts because it's he's had a different offensive coordinator going back to college every year.
It's never ending.
Which is unreal. But again, everyone's regressed. Saquon, even though he played, pretty well yesterday, Saquon wasn't Saquon from last year to this year. The offensive line and A.J. Brown is like, I don't even see how that relationship is going to.
Can they function forward together? Can they find the bridge past whatever this season was?
I think he'll get traded.
He has to get traded.
I think he'll get traded. I mean, it's just, to me, it's an untenable type situation. And I'm not saying that because the whole blow up on the sideline, these type of things. CC, we've seen all types of stuff happen on the sideline. Yeah. I've seen
coaches hit assistant coaches.
Yeah,
we saw Travis Kelce and Andy Reid.
I've seen full-on fights on the sideline. So, like, people need to just chill with all that or whatever. But I do think when you look at that and then everything that's happened with A.J. Brown and the coaching staff and the organization, I think this organization is going to move on from A.J. Brown.
Okay, I want to stick with people need to chill. Does Ben Johnson need to chill? What did you think of the handshake? What did you think of him in the locker room post-game saying, bleep the Packers?
No, Ben Johnson doesn't need to chill. I love
no
that.
Chill.
I love that. Like, I was in our production meeting for Get Up this morning. The one thing I said is we need more nastiness, more like hated rivalries. Like we need it's too buddy. Everybody's buddy, but this is a violent sport we play. I want nasty rivalries. Like, I want the Packers and Bears to be nasty. I want Pittsburgh and Baltimore to be nasty. Like, to me, that adds to the game. That adds to the fire between those organizations. So, listen, you hear everyone, whether it's on social media or whatever, say, the sportsmanship. Damn all that. I want all the smoke that Ben Johnson is dealing out.
And that right there is why the Green Bay Packers are in a tough spot. Because that was my critique of Green Bay. They don't have any of that anywhere on their team. They don't have any nasty.
That's a good point.
Think about it. Who's the nasty? Think about the Super Bowls you guys won. Lawyer Malloy could get suspended at any point for targeting in today's day and age.
Yeah.
You actually want that, not to hurt players. I'm saying you want crazy. You want Vrabel was nuts with you guys. Yeah. He's nuts now, right?
Yeah.
But where is that with Green Bay? You got Chicago as an identity of we are going to stomp on you, and the Packers now have this identity of we're not going to fight back. Think about that.
That's not what it didn't happen in the second half. I mean, Green Bay was literally dominating that game,
crushing them.
And then in the second half, it was just a complete they just disappeared. And I don't know what again, there was not one moment where you could look at him like, okay, that changed the momentum of the game. It just happened over a period of time. And there was nothing that Matt LaFleur and anyone could do about it.
Matthew Golden tried.
He tried.
He did his damnedest.
Yeah.
But he didn't have enough hombres coming with him.
Not enough dude in the trenches.
That's Damian Woody yesterday on Unsportsmanlike. He's a former player. He won Super Bowls with the Patriots. Understand that. Just the Ben Johnson thing was off-putting to me, and it works when you're winning. Yeah, you can walk around and drop F-bombs and say whatever you want, but comes back the other way. Karma, as they say, is you-know-what. So we'll see where that goes. Okay, that's enough for me. Bram is coming up next, and I will see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.